don't know why.
The group. Every time somebody's called this a group of death, I'm like, oh my God, shut up, stop it.
Shaka, does the fact that Newcastle finished bottom in the group of death, does that give Eddie Howe some solace?
No. I think
solace.
Yeah.
Finishing bottom.
Well, finishing bottom is a comparison to, say, the Manchester United group yesterday, in which we were critical because it contained the likes of Copenhagen, who are no European Galatasaray. So the fact you finished bottom, do they deserve the same sort of criticism that Manchester United got yesterday?
I think overall this was a tougher group just for starters, and I think this group kind of came down to a couple of key moments. That refereeing call in the previous leg, as I mentioned. The refereeing call in Dortmund, PSG today, with Marquinhos not being sent off. And then big moments that in last game that Ali just spoke about. And also, just coming into this, Newcastle's continued injury crisis. So I think the fact that Newcastle, in their first season back in Europe for 10 years, 10, 14 years, something of the sort, put up this kind of a fist, I think resonates well with Eddie Howe. And though they finished bottom of the group, at one point during the day, they were going through to the group stage.
Yeah, but it's going to be a bun fight for them in the Premier League, isn't it? Because, Villa are in there, Tottenham are in there. Who else knows what's going to happen with Man United? And they're all playing for fourth, pretty much, I would imagine. And that Europa League has been an avenue recently to the Champions League, isn't it? So in some sense, they've shot themselves in the foot. Yeah, great effort, Newcastle, but they can look back to their performance in Milan, which wasn't great. Their performance at St James's Park against Dortmund was very poor. And then, obviously, the big decision in Paris, which ultimately has knocked them out here. But I just felt at the end, they could have been... It was just... hell for leather.
Yeah,
when Shar went that run, it was just too open.
The game should have been handled a whole lot differently. But this is a part of the process for me. Given that Newcastle haven't played in Europe for so long, you have these stumbles, you learn from them, you now have a better idea of what your squad needs to look like in terms of competing in the Premier League and Europe, how you manage that, how you manage rotations, and for the players' experiences, how you manage games. From here, now you build on this experience. Now, the question is, of course, will Newcastle finish top four and are able to build on this?
Well, they'll be in Europe next year. But in some sense.
So it's a step forward, and I don't it's disappointing, but they don't look back on it with a whole lot of negativity.
One last thing on Newcastle, and I would just say it's hard for a team that depends on the emotion that St James's Park give you to not push forward. So how do you manage the game late and say, hey, look, we're not going to throw it out the window because we're thinking about potentially Europa League, when that same energy is what gets you going. And it's difficult. You're on the field, you're trying to make decisions, you think you have to win the game. It's a natural instinct of the group to say, let's go get it. Let's get after it. And I know that perhaps that comes with experience, but it's the same emotion that carries you, that same emotion is the one that hurts you. And it's difficult to manage that as a player on the field.
Go on, Frank.
Yeah, I go with that, and I understand what Ali says, and I agree with him. But yeah, it's what we call experience, and being an experience pushes you to the extreme and sometimes to the wrong side. I think at the end of the game, they wanted to go maybe for a win where you should have maybe go back, and because for one reason they were completely tired in the middle of the park. Bruno Guimaraes, he couldn't run anymore, and instead of maybe staying in front of his two centre backs, he tried to go forward. And you have to have a little bit of experience. It's what killed Newcastle today or the other games. And it's why they finished bottom. It's because they have the biggest weakness in football, the inexperience. And when you don't have players who have been through many campaigns of Champions League, they know what to do. We can see Mbappe being very unhappy with the fact that Paris Saint-Germain didn't want to go for a win, where because of the rest of the team, like Marquinhos, Hakimi said, no, we stay, we keep the draw, and we make sure we go through. That's the difference. And sometimes somebody has to speak out to make sure that the team follows, and they all go to the same path, and maybe they avoid making silly mistakes, I would say.
Some of these countries are getting And not England, probably now, because of Man United and Newcastle, coefficient.
Yes.
Some of these countries are getting 5 teams in. Deary me.
Well, one country will, won't it?
Is it one country?
I think it's only one country,
Deary
I believe.
Holy smokes. 5 teams to qualify for the Europa League out of country.
Ah, there we are. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Thank you for that.
Thinking